There's a lower ball joint right here. Now let's take a look at how bad it is. Look at that. Same thing with the upper ball joint. See how much is moving around in there? Kind of hard to see with this cover on it, but it's moving around too much. We got a ball joint here as well. That goes to the steering column. It's actually what turns the wheels. We're going to change that one too. Make sure that the grease is going to go inside the ball joints. I put the grease fitting inside of the grease gun. We're just going to press it to make sure the grease is going to come through correctly. There we go. Came out. I'm going to put on the grease gun. I'm going to pump it with grease until you start to see the grease squirting out the bottom underneath. Then you'll know that it's full. Since the end on that is so tiny, as you could see, a small stream of grease came through. It's going to take a while to fill it up. As you fill it up, you can see the rubber start to expand. First, we have to remove the brake caliper. There's a bolt here, and there's a bolt down there. Then it'll slide right off, and then you're going to need to find something to support the brake cable, so it's not just hanging there. Remove the cotter pin from the upper ball joint. Then you need a 7/8 socket to loosen up this nut here. This one has a pretty big space in between here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to need the fork or not to get this out of here. It might be loose enough for it to just come right out. I do need the fork. Here's the fork. I'm gonna put it in there, and we gotta hit it with a pretty good size hammer like that. Okay, got it. And before you do that, the lower ball joint here, make sure you leave that nut attached, or at least just slightly threaded on, otherwise the whole assembly will fall off when you hammer the fork in. And we gotta come up here to the top of the control arm, remove this bolt here, and then there's another bolt over there. Come over here and I'll try to loosen up the nuts instead. You need a 10mm socket because you can't get the socket in there to get that bolt out because this harness is in the way here. Those wires or whatever they are. So we gotta unscrew this. Very important that you put it back snug on here afterwards, because it looks like it's a ground wire as well, plus whatever the wiring's running through here. Okay, get it out. Looks like the bolt's gonna stay in there, so I don't have to worry about losing it. Just push it out of the way so we can get our socket here to loosen up that other nut. Now we're going to pull out the 2 bolts. Make a note of where they are so you don't put them in backwards. Keep that one there for left. Now the right side. The right side one. Actually, we're pretty lucky with that. Keep that one on the right side. Be careful, because when you take control arm out, this whole thing is going to fall forward. Just gently let it sit there. As you can see here, the brake hose line was actually long enough to where I was able to put the caliper on a brick. So I don't have to try to hang it up on a string or anything, or a little piece of rope. We're going to go get the new control arm and put it in, and then we will do the lower ball joint. Here's the new control arm. It's got the grease fittings like you saw at the beginning of the video. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in here, put the bolts through, and then I'll pull this part back up to line it up with the ball joint, and then tighten everything down, and then we would do the bottom ball joints. So we're going to take the bolts, put them back through like they were on the old control arm. There's a piece of metal in there that sticks out. There's a piece of metal in there that sticks out, and this little piece that sticks out here just lines up with it, so it goes in like this. You have to play with it to get it in there. Okay. And we get those big nuts to put back on. Snug for now, and then we gotta pop in the other bolts. And there's another one of those plates like this on the other side too. Depending on your vehicle, it might. I'm using a jack to help lift this up. As you can see, makes it a lot easier to line these two up. Now we're going to remove the snap ring. It's so difficult. The bottom ball joint needs a 15/16 socket. Only thing that's going to be holding this on here is the steering part here that connects to the steering wheel. This bearing I'm not changing right now. Okay, then we're going to wiggle this whole assembly to get it off. Use the fork again. There we go. Then this ball joint here, we're just going to hammer it until it pops out. That's it. Very quickly, look how bad this lower ball joint is. Look at that, I can spin it. Woo! It's a miracle that it worked at all. Put the nut down like this to protect the threads. Insert it. Make sure the part for greasing is pointing towards the front of the vehicle. Then you're just going to hammer it in. Take this ring, you got to find the right size, stick it on there. That allows the ball joint to go inside while you're cranking down on this thing here. Here's the setup for the tool that pulls the ball joint inside. You get pieces like this. there's a hole in it. And you find the right one that fits, and there's a little lip on the end of the ball joint. This is the setup again. It's got ones like this, they got a hole in them. You just find the right one that fits on the lip under there, the end of the ball joint. Maybe just tighten it down.